Hi everyone, and welcome back to another installment in the AgilePoint Generative AI video series. In this video, we're going to focus on creating form-based applications, or forms, with master detail relationships. This is building upon previous capabilities that you may have seen in this series, where we use things like images, PDFs, Excel sheets, and prompts to create our forms. But as mentioned, this video is going to expand the complexity to include master detail data structures. There are two scenarios I'd like to walk us through today, both with differing levels of complexity. So let's get started by looking at our first form. Okay, so taking a look, as you're seeing on screen, our first scenario is an expense report. We have a request number, which will be unique for each run of this application, a requested date, the employee name, username, title, and department, as well as phone number and email. Lastly, down below, we have the manager's full name, as well as their username, as well as a table for all of the expense items. Okay, so let's get started with our new application. Now, a quick disclaimer here, today's video is going to focus around form-based applications, but everything you'll see over the course of this video will also apply to process-based apps. Okay, so we've given our application a name and dropped it into a category. Now, for those of you who have been following along with this series, you've probably seen this question before. It's asking me whether we're creating a widget form or not. Now, in case you're not familiar, a widget form is created with the express purpose of hosting on a landing page. So since that's not required for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave not required selected. And of course, as you might expect, we're going to create our form using AI. Next, AgilePoint is telling me how would I like to use AI in creating my form. As you might have seen in prior videos, we can use prompts, we can use PDFs or images, as well as Excel sheets, but for today, we're going to use a PDF. Next, I'll determine where my file is located. I can always browse through connected document repositories, or simply upload the file from my local file system. So now AgilePoint's LLM is doing the image recognition and is going to suggest various fields we can use for our application. Okay, so on screen, you're seeing the suggestions that AgilePoint has made for our application. But as in prior videos, we can always massage, recategorize, and add fields as needed. For instance, with the request number, we might want to recategorize that from a type of text to a type of sequence number. So from here, we can scroll through the list and see what else might need to be changed. So the requested date has come through as a date field. Employee name is a text box. Department has been categorized as a type of pick list, which means we can either reuse an existing pick list, or we can have new values generated with AI. Now, in my case, I know that I have a department pick list, so I'm going to select that. Scrolling further, we're going to see that things like the phone number and email have been correctly transposed into a control for phone and email. Lastly, you're noticing a series of check marks along the left-hand side. This is where AgilePoint's LLM has correctly interpreted that these fields are in fact mandatory. Scrolling further down, you'll see that expense details has been made of type table with a field type of data grid. At the time of this recording, a data grid is supported, but in the coming weeks, we will also bring in support for subforms. Okay, so if we go into table configuration here, you're going to see that AgilePoint has automatically detected all of the elements in the table that existed in our PDF. So as you're seeing, it's already brought in a field called record ID, date, category, description, receipt available, and then the amount. Now there is one change we might want to make here. We'll take receipt available and change that into a yes/no radio button. And we can make additional fields mandatory, like date, category, description, and amount. Okay, so with that, we've configured our table. Okay, so I'm going to give my primary entity a descriptive name. you're seeing here it has automatically suggested the request number as the primary key, which I can always recategorize. But if you've been following along with these videos, you're noticing that a secondary entity now needs to be configured. So a slight departure from prior videos. So AgilePoint is intelligent enough to understand that the record ID is my primary key in this table, but I also need to specify how this relates to my parent table. So from the dropdown, it's showing me two unique fields, and in our case, I'm going to select the request number. And lastly, our foreign key will also be the request number. Okay, we can always set up additional components like access tokens and document repositories later. We'll go with default security. So now AgilePoint is going to drop me into the application designer where I can see the layout for my new app. Okay, so as you can see here, a number of elements have been pre-created. A form to enter new expense records, an update form in case I want to make modifications to previously submitted records, 3 views, all records, recently created and recently modified, with a lookup for each of those views. Now, as an optional step, we can make this form more intelligent. Going back to our PDF, there is no way to auto-populate details like the employee name, requested date, and the other fields you're seeing on screen. So we're going to do this very quickly. But again, this is an optional step. Okay, so for the requested date, we can go into configuration and set the default value of the current date. Now, because this is a local change, you're seeing here I have a button to promote to library, so all of the other forms in this application will inherit this change. Now I'm going to make a few additional changes to things like employee name and employee username before fast forwarding through the remaining changes. So under employee name, I have a number of out-of-the-box tokens. So under system data, I know I have a token for the user full name. And I can drag that over to my default value field. We'll do the same thing in terms of promoting this to the library. And now you're going to see me fast forward through the remaining fields. Okay, so going back to our expense report PDF, you'll notice here that we do not have a sum total for all expense line items. As you all know, this is something that can easily be done in AgilePoint. So let's configure this in our table. Okay, so if we go to the pencil icon here, you'll notice we have all of our data-bound fields. So if we scroll down towards the bottom, all we need to do is select Show Total. And just like that, we now have a sum total of all of the line items in our expense claim. So with that, our form is now fully configured. So let's save and check it in. Publish. Launch it. And enter a few records. Okay, so by bringing up my form, you're seeing here that the current date is being populated, as well as my details and those of my manager. So we're going to fill in the title and department. You'll notice here that my phone number is dialed within the US. So next, let's add in the details of our expense report. And the amount. And we'll add one more record. So as you're seeing here, we have our sum total. And lastly, our justification. Okay, so as you're seeing here, here's my record that I've just entered. Everything now is in a read-only format, but down below I have the edit button where I can make modifications. So with that, let's move into scenario 2. So in scenario 2, rather than use a PDF, we're going to use an image. So think about screenshots from existing legacy applications as a perfect use case for this scenario. So what you're seeing on screen is an employee change application, and as you're seeing here, it has a more complex structure than previously. So across the top, you're seeing request number, created by, created date, as well as a dropdown for the employee, as well as what we're changing. First name, last name, nickname, and any permissions that we are giving or revoking. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is a more complex structure because not only do we have a repeating table here, down below, you're also seeing a comments history, which itself can be repeating. So with that, let's move back into App Builder and upload this image. So again, we don't need a widget form. We're going to build our form with AI, and this time we're going to use an image. Let's upload this file from my local file system. And again, AgilePoint's LLM is going to ingest the image and suggest the relevant fields. Okay, so as you're seeing here, I have all of the fields for my application. And if I scroll through the list, we're going to see that 2 tables have been detected. So here we have our comments history. And as you can see here, it has detected all of the columns in our grid. And similarly, under role information, again, all of the columns have been detected. Okay, so with that, you now understand how to create forms and form-based applications with master detailed data structures using generative AI. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.